Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to follow Sky Alert USA so you never miss out on our latest weather updates and videos. Seriously, your support means a ton to us, so go ahead and subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. We love hearing from you.
Weather Apocalypse. Your Super Bowl weekend survival guide. This is your go-to video for making it through the wildest weather weekend of the year, so stick around for some real talk about what's heading your way. All right, folks, if you're watching this on Super Bowl Sunday, you better buckle up because Mother Nature's about to throw the wildest play of the season. And I'm not talking about what's happening on the field in Santa Clara. I'm talking about the meteorological chaos that's gripping America right now, and what's coming down the pipeline that nobody's telling you about. Right this second, while millions are gathering for watch parties, the Northeast is getting absolutely hammered by Arctic air, so brutal, wind chills are hitting 30 below zero. I mean, we're talking frostbite in 10 minutes, kind of cold. Boston woke up this morning to minus 30-degree wind chills. New York City? Try minus 25. And here's the kicker, this isn't even the worst part. We've got 3 major storm systems queuing up like planes at O'Hare, and each one's going to reshape the weather map over the next 2 weeks. So here's what's actually going down. The country's literally split in two right now. You've got this massive dome of Arctic air that's dropped straight out of Canada like a frozen hammer on the east coast. We're talking single digits, below zero temps from Maine down to Florida. Yeah, Florida's getting freeze warnings again. Meanwhile, the rest of America? They're living in a completely different reality. Montana hit 70 degrees this week. 70. In February. South Texas is flirting with 90. The central US is experiencing temps 20 to 30 degrees above normal. And it's because of this crazy Pacific flow that's got the jet stream doing gymnastics up in Canada.
It's wild, right? I mean, seeing Florida get freeze warnings at the same time Texas is almost hitting 90? That's just unheard of. The jet stream is really putting on a show this year.
But let me break down what's really happening here, because the mainstream weather folks are missing the bigger story. See, the polar vortex, that massive spinning wheel of Arctic air that usually sits nice and stable up over the North Pole, it's been disrupted. When that happens, all hell breaks loose. That cold air that's supposed to stay locked up in the Arctic, it escapes. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. There was a major stratospheric warming event in mid-January that basically broke the polar vortex into pieces, and now those pieces are spinning around, causing havoc.
Yeah, and honestly, when you look at the data, you can see just how dramatic that disruption was. It's not just a cold snap, it's a whole atmospheric shakeup. The ripple effects are wild.
Now, let's talk about these 3 systems I mentioned, because this is where it gets interesting. The first one's already starting to move Monday, coming off Baja, California. This one's kind of a weak sister, to be honest. It's going to swing across Texas, bringing some showers Tuesday into Tuesday night, but nothing earth-shattering. Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, you'll see some beneficial rain. Good news for drought-stricken areas. The Northeast, they're getting more snow. New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine. Pile it on top of what you already got.
That's right, and honestly, folks down south are going to welcome that rain. It's been dry as a bone in some of those spots. And up in the Northeast, well, they're probably tired of shoveling, but here comes more, whether you want it or not.
Here's where it gets spicy. The second system is lurking off the west coast right now, and by Wednesday it's going to slam central California with rain. Finally, the Sierra Nevada has been absolutely desperate for snow. We're talking snowpack at like 46 to 60% of normal. Ski resorts have been running on fumes. But this system and what comes after it, that's going to change everything. By Thursday, this second system drops into Southern California, then sweeps across the desert southwest. And here's what nobody's connecting the dots on. While all this is happening, the middle of the country continues to bake under that ridge of high pressure. You're going to have this insane temperature gradient, where it's 70 and 80 degrees in Texas and Oklahoma, while the Northeast is still in the deep freeze.
Yeah, it's wild to see such extremes at the same time, like California finally gets a break, but the middle stays hot and the Northeast just keeps getting hammered with cold. It's a real roller coaster across the country right now.
Now, the third system. This is the one you need to pay attention to, especially if you're planning anything for Valentine's Day weekend, February 13th through 14th. This system's got more juice, more moisture, and its timing could not be worse for some folks. We're looking at potentially significant rain for the southern plains, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. But here's the twist. There's going to be cold air trying to muscle in from the north into the Ohio Valley. And when that warm, moist air from the south crashes into that cold air, you're creating a battleground.
Areas like Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. You could be squeezing out snow showers Friday into Saturday. Not massive amounts, but enough to mess up your Valentine's Day plans. And for those dreaming of a romantic, warm Valentine's in Texas? Sorry, you're looking at 50s and low 60s with clouds and rain instead of 70s and sunshine.
The GFS model is showing a couple inches of rain over that 48-hour period Friday night through Sunday morning. I think it's being a bit too aggressive, but we're definitely looking at beneficial precipitation across a huge swath of the south. Meanwhile, out west, another system's going to hit the Pacific Northwest, bringing heavy rain to Washington and Oregon, and finally, some serious snow to Northern California. The Sierras have been starving, folks. Places in Utah and Nevada are at record low snowpack. Montana's been so warm it hasn't been snowing at normal elevations. But here's the thing. That pattern's about to flip in a major way. Around the 17th, 18th of February, maybe a day or two earlier, we're going to see a dramatic shift. That frigid air that's been building up in Alaska and British Columbia, it's going to come crashing south. And when I say crashing, I mean it. The Pacific Northwest, California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, the whole West is going to get slammed with colder anomalies and, more importantly, heavy snow. We're talking feet of snow in the Sierras, the Cascades, significant accumulation in the Rockies. This is the pattern shift that's going to start eating away at those massive snowfall deficits.
The East Coast? They finally get a break. After weeks of brutal cold, they're going to warm up. The middle of the country maintains that ridge of high pressure, keeping temps well above normal. But the West is going to get absolutely buried.
And this isn't just a one-shot deal. Looking at the extended models from about the 15th through the 22nd, the West is looking at a sustained period of heavy snowfall. Higher elevations in the Sierras, the Cascades, we could be measuring in feet, not inches. Colorado, Utah, Arizona, mountain communities are going to see significant accumulation. This is what the ski resorts have been praying for. This is what water managers in the West have been desperate for.
Because right now, the West is in trouble. Snowpack deficits are massive. Some areas are at record lows. The Humboldt Basin in Nevada, 32% of median snowpack. That's catastrophic for water supply come spring and summer.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. When snowpack is that low, it means less water for cities, farms, and ecosystems all across the region. Folks, this is the kind of thing that impacts everyone, whether you live out west or not.
Here's what this means practically. If you're traveling through the Sierra Nevada after mid-February, expect chain controls, highway closures, and major delays. If you're a ski enthusiast, Start planning your trips for late February, because conditions are finally going to be prime.
If you're in agriculture or water management in the West, this pattern shift could be the difference between disaster and survival for the 2026 growing season. But let's zoom out for a second, because there's a bigger story here about what's happening with our climate and weather patterns.
We've been in a La Niña pattern that's transitioning to ENSO neutral. That transition, combined with the polar vortex disruption, is creating these wild swings and split flow patterns. You get the Arctic air dumping south on one side of the continent, while warm Pacific air surges north on the other side. And as we move deeper into February, those patterns are going to keep dancing around.
The last week of February could be crucial. Models are showing the beginnings of that warm ridge over the middle of the country finally starting to break down. If that happens, we could see colder temps trying to push farther south than they have been. But that's still too far out to call with confidence.
So here's your action plan. If you're in the Northeast right now, hang tight through this weekend. Relief's coming by mid-month. If you're in the Southern Plains, the desert Southwest, be ready for those systems rolling through between now and Valentine's Day. Keep an eye on flood watches in areas that are going to get heavy rain. And if you're in the West, especially mountain communities, get ready. After months of pain, winter's finally coming back with a vengeance in the second half of February.
The snow drought that's been plaguing the West since early winter? It's about to get a serious correction. Those abysmal conditions in Utah, the embarrassing lack of snow in places that should be buried by now, that's changing. The pattern's flipping. And when it flips, it's going to flip hard.
Bottom line, we're in for a wild 2 weeks. 3 storm systems in rapid succession, a major pattern shift for the West, continued temperature chaos across the country, and a Valentine's Day that's going to be anything but typical in large parts of the nation. This is the kind of active weather pattern that keeps meteorologists up at night and excites weather geeks like us.
Stay safe out there. If you're in areas expecting heavy snow, make sure you've got supplies. Extra food, water, batteries, full tank of gas. If you're in flood-prone areas expecting heavy rain, know your evacuation routes. And if you're lucky enough to be in that warm zone in the middle of the country, enjoy it while it lasts, because Mother Nature's been writing checks all over this continent, and sooner or later, everyone's account comes due.
The pattern's shifting, the storms are lining up, and the next 2 weeks are going to be absolutely wild. This is the weather story of February 2026, and you heard it here first.